Kia ora te whānau. Welcome back to Under The Whāriki. I'm Anatola.
I'm Tahu, and today we're talking about sex work with our special guest, Annah. Tēnā koe hoa. Could you please introduce yourself to the crowd so they get to know you a little bit better?
Kia ora, Nisambula Vanaka. My name's Annah Pickering, and I work as a sex worker activist for an organisation called Aoteaora New Zealand Sex Workers Collective, which was formerly the New Zealand Prostitutes Collective.
Massive.
Amazing. Mean. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this corridor
Me
today.
too.
I have so many questions, but it's just nice to have a space we can talk about something like this that often we don't talk about and has a lot of stigma attached to it. So thank you so much for being with us today. To warm up the space, we do a little icebreaker, and that's really just to kind of get us going, get us flowing with some corridor. So basically our icebreaker is called yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. And so I'll say a statement, and then you and Tahu and I will have a little conversation. So yeah, nah means no, and nah, yeah means yes. Cool? So, white bread is superior to any other bread. Yeah, nah, or nah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, yeah?
Nah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not a Vogels person?
Whole grain.
Actually, white bread's what our peeps eat, so I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah. What, is there a way that you like to have it?
Toasted?
Toasted?
With butter? Has to have real butter.
Yeah, real butter.
Yeah.
Here we go. Don't even put your finger.
She eats Olivani.
You know what? I learnt this from my Māori whānau, because you only eat real butter.
Yeah.
And so it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that, and I agree. See, judgments allowed in the space.
What are you?
I'm a yeah, nah.
Nice.
But that's because I don't actually eat real butter anymore. If I was eating real butter, then
It would be white
white. You can only have white bread with
Is
real
white
butter.
bread vegan? No.
Yeah, I think most of it is.
Oh, okay.
I'm not 100%
Oh, no, that's
sure.
gluten, I'm
Yeah,
thinking about.
gluten. But there's some Vogels that aren't vegan because they have egg in it.
Right.
But I just love brown toast.
Right.
I just love brown toast, so I love brown anything. So,
Nice.
but brown toast.
Exactly. That's why I don't want to be an advocate for the white bread.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so much superior. I'm white power till I die with bread, okay?
Yeah.
That bread is the best.
Yeah.
It's so unfulfilling as well. That's the other thing. You can just eat so much of it.
I know. It is really. Also, like bakery bread.
Yeah.
Oh, like the hot bakery
Warm.
bread, that
With
full
the crust.
loaf with the crust. Far out.
Okay, let's stop. We're going
Am
on
I
about
gonna go
bread.
back to eating
I
real
haven't had
butter now?
breakfast.
Yeah.
But I'd say my favourite bougie bread would be sourdough.
Oh, I love me some
I'm a
sourdough.
brioche.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not vegan.
Aren't they?
Ah, come on, guys,
Unlucky.
give me some vegan.
All right. So moving on from there, we go to the pop quiz to learn. Well, it's basically a time for us to learn.
Yeah.
But just to see how much we know about the topic, which is sex work today, which I don't know much about.
Yeah, me either.
Like pretty much just know about OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Which I have contemplated. But besides that, yeah. So you asked us the partai, and we have our whiteboards
Cool.
ready to go.
Okay, why do sex workers prefer to be known as sex workers other than prostitutes?
Not an essay. My days.
Go.
You need to get into abbreviations.
up,
like,
hurry
acronyms.
up.
You need to start doing acronyms for your answers, and then you read.
Like, yeah, go. You go first.
Okay. The stigma behind the word. They don't like it.
Yes.
I said prostitute has more stigma attached to it, and it was a name pushed onto them.
Kia ora.
There.
Yeah, they're both right.
Yeah. So, what's the difference between prostitution and escorting?
Well, with sex work, everything that covers stripping, escorting, or selling sex for money
Is sex work.
Is sex work.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, cool.
Okay.
I think also when I hear people say prostitute, I think they're saying it with a lot of judgment.
Right.
And and a lot of venom and disgust.
Yeah.
And I think sex work, it's showing its work, it's mahi, and
And the politically correct term is sex work, not prostitute.
Right.
Okay.
Got you.
I just lost my cap. Oh no.
You right?
That's all right. But now I've got no rubber.
Okay then. Yeah, you can use mine.
No, yeah. All right.
Okay, how long has it been decriminalised in Aotearoa, New Zealand? Sex work been decriminalised in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
I actually think I know this. I actually think I might know the month too.
Whoa, really? Go with both.
I think because I remember. Again, don't include it if I'm wrong, but
10 years.
I
20
think it's
years.
June
Correct.
2003.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Oh my God,
So 25th of
Thank you
June
for social work degree.
2003 is when sex work became decriminalised in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So it'll be our 20th year anniversary.
Yeah,
in
beautiful.
June.
Is there is a big celebration?
Yeah, we're planning to have a celebration in Tamaki, yeah.
So was all sex work banned before 2003?
So, prostitution or sex work was legal, but you couldn't sell sex, basically. You couldn't solicit. And what used to happen before, we had an old legislation called the Massage Parlour Act in 1978. And so when that law got repealed under decriminalisation, it basically was anyone that had a soliciting conviction couldn't work in a massage parlour. And if you had a drug charge, you couldn't work in a massage parlour. And so your children were removed from your care if you had a soliciting conviction. It was a $250 fine, and you were deemed as a criminal, and it would affect you travelling. Your children were removed from your care. And most of our people who were criminalised under that old law was our Māori and Pacifica sex workers. So it took us 19 years to fight for law reform.
Wow.
With different consecutive governments. Yeah.
Wow. And that changed in 2003.
In 2003,
wow.
We got the law through by one vote, and it was by the Dame Winnie Laban. So she was the first Pacifica MP back in 2003 for Mana, a representative of the Labour Party under the Clark government. And just by one vote, so it was one Christian MP that voted to support decriminalisation and one Muslim MP that abstained. So we got the law through by 60 votes for and 59 votes against with one abstention.
Far out.
That is pretty close. And what the fuck, hey? Like they all don't love sex or pay for sex.
Exactly.
And sex being the oldest profession of ever.
But it's also more so, why would you want to criminalise something else?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to create avenues where
because it's majority brown.
And I think a lot of people don't know this, but in Aotearoa, New Zealand, any laws around, any laws around morality in Aotearoa, New Zealand, when it comes to our representatives of Parliament, it is a conscious vote, so it's not a party vote. So those MPs have to make a conscious vote for themselves, but they will get, the constituents that vote them in. If they don't agree with that, that sitting MP for that area has to sort of sit with if I vote this, am I going to be in the next election? So most people don't know that anything around abortion, sex work, prostitution, drugs, euthanasia, alcohol.
Right, all those, right.
Yeah, anything around morality, laws around morality is a conscious vote for our House of Representatives, yeah.
All right. That's amazing. Was that the last question?
Oh, how many did we do? Two.
Do you have any more? We can just go straight into it.
We can go straight into it.
Yeah.
I lost anyway.
I'm glad you recognised that.
I know. Anyway, I'm good over there.
That was like brain drain.
No, because that's really good information for people to know. I think it's also important to know the history of something, why it's important that we've moved past this and trying to do better on and on. I was a social worker for a few years, and no longer actively practicing. However, my first bit of mahi, I worked quite closely with mothers repairing their attachment and relationship with the child they'd lost out of care. So worked, in relationship with SIFs. And what I learned a lot through that time was there was a lot of young girls that were forced to sell sex in desperation to cater to their family who were exploiting them. And I think there's a whole side of people that people often focus on is the trauma stuff, the bad stuff, but often focusing on the fact that there are people that choose to do this and enjoy this mahi. What are your thoughts when we are talking about the fact that there are two sides or multiple versions and experiences, that some have caused harm and some have out of choice, and then some it's because it's mahi that they need so they can get food on the table?
Well, a lot of people don't know this, that before the law changed in 2003, if you were a rangatahi and you were out selling sex, the rangatahi was criminalised with the conviction and could be sent to prison, or to youth prison, or what they used to have then. It wasn't OT then. I mean, it was not OT. It was SIFs, but before that it was state ward.
Oh right, yeah.
I'm showing my age here.
No, this is beautiful. This is beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, and so most of our rangatahi, if they were 12 or 13 or 14 and they were out on the street selling sex, the police would come around and pretend that they were clients, and then entrap them where they'd say that they would solicit a job for money for sex. That rangatahi was criminalised. So that's what used to happen before 2003. And some of our people from our community who have that lived experience of what it used to be like back in the day, got to speak passionately about their experiences to politicians and select committees and closed rooms. And it was it was quite harrowing stuff, even to the point where we'd spoken to the Children's Commissioner of that day, with in saying that. But any young person who sells sex today is not criminalised. It's only third parties, and that means people who are, it could be people who are organising them, people who, and a client who purchase the sex off a rangatahi. So So now under the Prostitution Reform Act, that section of the law, the rangatahi is not the wrongdoer, is protected.
Right.
It's just the third parties that facilitate or buy the sex from the rangatahi. And so when the law changed, organisations like, which was then Child, Youth and Family Services, now Oranga Tamariki, sort of had to okay, what are we going to do? And so I'd say, from my experience working in this region, Tamaki Makaurau, we, sort of said to Oranga Tamariki, this is what we do. NZPC, we can talk to the young person about safe sex, the law, and we can also support them around stuff around exploitation and things like that.
So you're able to regulate it more, you're able to offer support and services more when there is no harm of or potential harm of going to prison for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And with Oranga Tamariki, they would do subsection 101.
Right.
And so when some of our rangatahi were under the custody, they would put them into, I don't know, I'm just talking for Auckland, whakataka pokai. And,
are they still around?
No, that's not around anymore. Epuni in Wellington and Korowai Manaki if it was high-risk offender.
Yeah.
The sex work wasn't the issue. What it was is with the state was about the rangatahi being at risk, not being able to, absconding. Now we're talking social work language, which means a young person won't stay home, they'll jump out the window, or sometimes their family won't even report them as missing persons. So you can have a rangatahi out on the street or, staying at friends' places and their parents don't even know what the hell they're up to. But with adult sex workers, which is 18 and over, most sex workers, if they see any rangatahi out on the street, they'll come and let us know, NZPC, and then, we call them whistleblowing.
Yeah.
and then we try and connect with them that way. But I can say now our working relationship with Oranga Tamariki is that we'll have a social worker ring me up or email and say, I've got a rangatahi who is sex working, can you help us or give us some advice about what to do? And how the department is now is that it's shifted from looking at this risk as a problem, but looking at it more from a harm reduction.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And so Oranga Tamariki, most people don't realise, have set up a specialised team that deal with our most high-risk youth in the country. And they're based in Grey Lynn, Oranga Tamariki, but that specialised team there, I think there's like maybe 6 social workers there. They have the most complex cases. Yeah. And if someone has Section 101, the person who's working with that rangatahi has to put in, a process around this person's at risk, we need support with this because maybe if they're in Rotorua, we don't have the resources here. What are you guys doing up there? So that's sort of how we work now. Or the department's sort of got to look at it from a harm reduction approach. Yeah.
Oh, so important.
Like I've worked with kids who, have whānau that are, a dad might be, a patch gang member, and there might be 3 generations of sex workers, grandma, mother, and the, daughter or son. And then I've dealt with, rangatahi who come from other parts of Aoteaora, New Zealand, and they're transgender, and so they come to the city because they can't do, it's not they choose to do sex work, but they're going through an identity crisis on sexuality. They want to go somewhere where they can be themselves and, go through this navigation space of growth and, being with people like themselves.
I imagine this could be quite scary for kids, like where kids are out on the road. Well, I guess you've grown up in a system where the world's not giving you many chances anyway. But how many sex workers, one, are male? Is that is that as common? And then 2, are there by choice on your guys' stats?
Well, male sex work, our industry's mainly made up of wahine, so I'd say probably like 94%, 92% would be wahine, and then we would have, the next percentage would be transgender and rainbow, right? And then the male sex workers would probably only be like 2% or 3%.
Yeah. Why don't women want to buy sex? Because they can get it, eh?
Actually, a lot of our male sex workers, they're men who have sex with men, so they're having sex with men who pay to have sex with them. Yeah. And so we have a thing we call gay for pay or straight for pay. So most of our tāne would work on online platforms like, I don't want to give away the names, but there's, they have websites where they can go and advertise their services, right. And then sometimes they may also go undercover on dating sites, and connect with people that way, or through Grindr. I don't know if you know about Grindr. Yeah.
Is there, because you mentioned like there is a lot of transgender people who also do sex work. And I think growing up on Karangahape Road, there was always stories about people who would stand on K Road. Yeah. And a lot of harmful, comments and conversations about it. And I remember being a kid and people would be like, I'm going to go drive down K Road and look at the, the prostitutes. That's what was said. What is there... Has there been ways that there's been support for sex workers when dealing with
the public,
and the absolute this disgusting behaviour that we often show to people that we think deserve it?
The projection of
shame and the scrutiny that we think we're entitled to show to people. Like, what has that been like for people? Like, has there been support around that?
Yeah, the majority of the street-based sex workers, they will let us know about who comes out in cars and, drives around, and it's like they treat them like it's a zoo.
Yeah.
And it becomes sort of like it's very dysfunctional, and there's two things that can happen. One, our community take the law in their own hands, which I always say to them, don't, because you could be done, for an offence. And sometimes workers, in the past have, thrown things at people in the public who are driving around and being really rude and disgusting, because they're always in carloads. And, even like throwing eggs at workers, it's really horrible. But I always say, in our community, one of our health and safety things that we have is that take down the licence plate of the vehicle and we report it to the police.
Good.
And I go out on the street at night, and if I see a vehicle harassing any workers, I'll report it to the police, to the point I've actually chased people in my car with police comms saying, 111, I've got this car here that's done this to this worker, and we will report hate crimes. Yes.
Because it's a hate crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people don't realise that. It's a hate crime.
What are the authorities like in those type of situations?
The police are very good. Like, we do a lot of work with them, and like this, in Tāmaki we have 4 policing districts, so we have to deal with 4 area commanders, 4 district commanders and different policing teams. But I can say, we can speed dial someone and just say, like, we've got this nonsense happening to our community, and the workers are really good because they will also inform the police as well.
Good.
And through and the police have changed their system too. They have Police 105. You call 105.
Not like crazy murders or anything.
Yeah, and you can report stuff like that. And I encourage a lot of our people in our community to go through that process. But usually with the workers, they won't muck about. They'll call the cops.
And I encourage people who also just driving down roads, and if they see it, they should report it too. Even if you're actively advocating or you're a sex worker yourself, I think anyone, if they're seeing any type of hate crime, should go and awhi and support any way that they can, safely.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, when you're on the other side, when you're looking at the other, mainstream society, how they look at our community, it's always like there's this perception that's, influenced by media, and it's influenced by their own family values around sex and what's immoral, what's moral. So when you have people come out, it's interesting, our community, when you see them come out in numbers, you get them by themselves, they'll be really, like, they won't know what to do, but if they come in crowds with their friends, they're ruthless. And
like, I've got someone backing me to be a dick.
And so when people are in groups, that's where, they feel more of a show going on. And I know for our street-based workers in Karangahape Road, they don't like being out when school kids come out, particularly like Auckland Girls Grammar. They come out around 3 o'clock to 3:15. The workers won't come out because the kids are cruel. And so, when we've dealt with stuff involving kids, kids being horrible to workers on the street or whatever, I'll just ring up the principal of the school and same the other way around,
Has that been received well?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Now it's just normalised now,
and it shows that we need to talk more about it so that when people do interact with people who are sex workers, that they understand that it's wild that you have to teach people this, but, like, they're human. Don't go around treating people like this.
I think what happens a lot with, adult people who pay for sex are not interested in children. Do like, kids go to school, so they're walking down Karangahape Road, same like Hunter's Corner, Manurewa. And the workers are there, but, there's not going to be any interaction other than they just want to mind their own business, get on with what they do. I think the big fuss always happens from, parents or people who are feeling righteous, about, those people over there, they shouldn't be seen, they should be somewhere else, or relocate them somewhere.
there's this, it's the stigma that's hard to break because there's like, thinking of sex as a thing
Right.
to people is quite personal.
Yeah.
And it's like a tapu thing where you feel like it's worth more than standing on the road saying here, this is the value of it for money. And then that's where people make the misinterpretation that these people are like, that's where the dirtiness comes from, where they would do it for money. And then how have you guys worked with communities to change it's the feeling for the wider public around stigma of prostitution and how it could be seen as this dirty thing where we all know everyone has sex, and why wouldn't you? It's just another, what's it called, trade.
Yeah. I mean, under the law in Aoteaora, New Zealand, sex workers, it's just like any other ordinary job.
Exactly.
And, I mean, we've worked tirelessly for years, working with business associations, managers of business associations and the councils, the pirihimana, other communities, church groups, just around destigmatising the myths.
Yeah.
And also just raising awareness that, we are part of the community as well.
Absolutely.
And so that's always been our party line.
Yeah.
We are here, we're not going anywhere. And I remember,
Oldest trade.
before the law changed, churches and brothels, or massage parlours, what we used to call them back then, were next door to each other.
Wow.
No one ever complained then.
No.
And it wasn't till like when we sort of started building momentum around changing the law, all of a sudden we started having like, your neighbours were like, oh, they were either for us or against us.
Yeah. You mentioned brothels and that it was called massage parlours, right? I just like thinking about like how many times I've driven past and people are like, oh, that's a brothel. And you're like, oh shit, really? And then you're like, who's going in there? Like, what type of people are going in there? And growing up and having all these things that were projected onto me, and they became a bias of mine until I learned, obviously, and listened and whatnot, and like also experienced the world, right? But the misconceptions I grew up with were so rampant growing up in a really conservative community.
Even the myth like of homelessness.
Oh, all of
like
it.
You think they're homeless or they're just doing it for drugs.
Yeah.
Those myths.
Yeah, because you're projecting your bias
Yeah.
onto them. You're projecting your judgment onto so many people that don't share a similar experience to you. So what are some of the myths and misconceptions when it comes to sex work as a whole?
Well, I probably have to ask you guys that because I know the answers, but
You can chuck it to us, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'll throw the ball back in your court. But
Okay.
I mean, what are the myths that you have, growing
growing
up
up
with?
knowing.
Yeah.
Well, this for me growing up, it was that they're homeless. Like, so you see them on the side of the road, that they have no choice. They have a pimp. They're all drug users.
They're forced to do this.
Undervalue
Yeah.
their what's it called? Product, service.
Yeah.
Service, yeah, not
Service.
product.
Service. Yeah.
Yeah. What's some of
No,
you?
I'm with you. I think also I think I grew up with the biggest myth and misconception, not saying this also isn't a reality, but I was raised thinking that, oh, poor them, like they're being forced to do this.
Yeah.
There's no other way. Like, we need to help them. We need to go save them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's...
Because I think majority of sex workers would laugh at that.
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
We've done academic research of 773 sex workers in Aoteaora, New Zealand, and majority of reasons why sex workers do this job is because it's for the money, pay parity, empowerment, and also around exploring their sexuality and just pretty much making money to pay their bills.
Absolutely.
Put food on the table, the tyres on the car, school uniform for their kids.
Yeah.
Like anyone working.
And, we have a population of student sex workers who don't get a lot of money from StudyLink.
Yeah.
And so that income also assists them to do the things where they can afford stuff they can't because they're restricted by the StudyLink criteria. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
No, now thinking back,
Yeah,
I'm like,
because I don't ask
what?
a chippy, why are you a chippy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But generally, and the flexibility of the hours, like most weekers, they could do, like 3 jobs in a day, and then they're fine. That's
For the whole week.
and that they're charging anything from $2.50 an hour to whatever. Different individual workers are different. We have workers that work privately for themselves, and then we've got workers who work in a club. Yeah, so it could be anything like being a dancer in the strip club, or working in a commercial brothel, or our street-based sex workers can do both. They'll work on the street, but they'll also work online.
What are your thoughts on OnlyFans?
I think it's really important that platforms are there where people can diversify their business. And I mean, like yesterday I sat with a worker and she was saying to me, I'm only on this site, it's Spotify. So I said to her, well, okay, have you thought about going on Twitter, OnlyFans, Instagram? And she's like, oh no, I didn't think of that. And so we sat down for 40 minutes going through the different platforms and how she could market. There's one thing I'm really good at, it's around marketing and selling sex. Yeah, and it's just the same like anything, like, you have a platform like any social media platform. The thing I always say to workers is because they'll end up doing everything themselves, so that, they've got to make sure that they don't get burnt out. And it's not from... The burnout's usually from keeping up with the profiles.
Right.
And then...
It's not actual the
labour.
The labour, because the labour work, you can choose, what type of job you want, the bookings, when you want it. So we have different sort of platforms also, like Sugar Daddy, Sugar Baby,
Sugar Mama, Sugar People.
And there's so many. So many platforms on there, but I think what happens is that people have this perception like, oh yeah, I want to go on there and make heaps of money, but before you even think about going there, either come in and see us and have a chat about it, because within our community we have all that institutional knowledge.
I love that you said like that sex workers would laugh at that. Because I'm like, these are our judgments and our misconceptions that we actually don't know anyone who's done sex. I don't know anyone who's done sex work, so I'm just judging, right, from as a kid. And I think like I love that you're like, they would laugh at that shit. That's not reality.
I think it's because like all you hear is the bad stories.
Yeah.
You hear about the violence.
Exactly.
And the gang work and having gang members for whānau. That's all. They don't sell you a nice picture. Yeah, they don't paint a nice picture about it. So those misconceptions are just drilled into you from not just whānau friends, but also media and movies.
Movies.
Like in movies, that's literally how they portray them all the time. So the breaking the stigma thing's probably the biggest thing for us as a public is to just realise that it's just another trade. They're just doing another job like anybody else. But it's like...
And in saying that, you probably have people in your circle who have been workers, but they would never come out and say that because, stigma and discrimination plus privacy. And then, what I've learnt over the years is, particularly with the media, is like everyone's like, have you been a sex worker? Have you done this? I thought, well, what's in your backyard? Because, the questions like that are really rude, and insensitive. Because it's almost like, well, if you want to, like, let's put the mirror on the other, on you. You know what I'm saying? In that sense, because it almost becomes around sensationalism, but it takes it away from the mana about the space and the people.
Yeah, the people.
And they're more than just like another number. Like I think like that's what I think people forget, like they're humans with so many other things. Like you're more than just the mahi you do too.
Is it because you forget and you're like, well, did you work in, were you a sex worker? And then if you were to flip it, and I was like, yeah, I did do labouring, or where you're not ashamed of your old work. Yeah.
But it almost becomes like this thing where people are like, what is it like?
Yeah.
How much money did you make? And
Did
it's
this
like,
happen?
how much money did you make in your job?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's the curiosity
It
that
is.
people feel entitled to.
Yeah, that rudeness. It's like asking soldiers who've been to war, like, what was it like to kill someone?
Yeah, share your trauma with me.
Yeah.
Share your trauma with me. I want to know. Yeah. Well, we've had a few people on talking about their experiences as a transgender person and the inappropriate questions they get about everything, and you're like, you're not entitled to those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, like doing the work what I do anyway, it's a privilege to serve, but it's also, you know, it's not easy because you have to deal with the perceptions, but also, you know, when we, you know, the government in particular will look at legislations that might affect our people. So, you know, these things that, like there's a legislation at the moment with the Immigration Act. If you're a migrant sex worker, you can't work as a sex worker on a temporary visa. And so what happens to those workers when they get caught by authorities, they get deported. And then when you get a deportation notice, it's a 5-year ban.
Wow.
And sex workers criminalised in many countries around the world, and so that's another piece of activism work that we are raising around making amendment to the Immigration Act.
Yeah. And how has that been like, working alongside that space and advocating for it?
It's been tough, but you know, we've done academic research in 2014 of 124 migrant sex workers that were interviewed who all said that they were not forced in sex work. They chose to do this job for, you know, work.
Yeah.
And the other thing was when there was violence towards them, like sexual violence or hate crimes, they couldn't report it because they would be in breach of their visa. And so what we did in 2018, we went to the UN, to Geneva. So most people don't know that Aoteaora, like many other countries, are signed up to international treaties. And New Zealand is signed up to the United Nations Convention Elimination Against Discrimination of Women. It's a lot. CEDAW. And so every 4 years our government has to report back to the UN saying this is what they've done, but myself and our national coordinator, we went to Geneva and we challenged our government as civil society that this is what really is happening, you know, with our people. And, you know, tangata whenua were there as well, you know, up there challenging the government on issues that affect us. And most people don't know that. You can go to the UN and challenge our government and hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
And so I think, this year anyway, they've got the periodic report. The government has to say what they've done in the last 4 years. And so a lot of civil society organisations, we've got a meeting on Tuesday where we'll still argue that the government hasn't done enough, and this is what's really happening on the ground for us, which means we'll probably have to go to the UN again.
Yeah.
Or,
that's so important.
Yeah.
That's so much mahi.
That's so much mahi.
Such a big load of
the website for Sex Workers Collective, I haven't been on for a few years now, but the last time I was on, you had so many links to different things, and from what I remember, there was like research and readings, and the website's really user-friendly, and loved learning through that way.
And I mean, Aotearoa New Zealanders, we call it the New Zealand model, and so a lot of countries look at us as the blueprint around decriminalisation and the human rights of sex workers. And you know, I mean, on Monday this week, you know, our national coordinator, Dame Catherine Healy, and another activist, tangata whenua activist, we're talking to the South Africa's going for decriminalisation.
Wow.
So we've got Canada, we have, you know, other countries that are looking at us as world leading and want the same thing in their own countries.
Right.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
It's just another, like, there's so much legislation and so much things to change. It's just the system being against us again.
This is a common theme, like the system.
Yeah, the system
This
just
huge
needs.
thing.
But there's strong, brave people like you working to change things for the better.
Yeah, and question it, and be like, we need to do something more.
Yeah.
I think we need more of that.
People forget that it's just people involved.
Yeah.
You know, at the bottom, at the ground level, it's not sex. It's not, you know, it's just people.
Yeah, and also sex, it brings people joy and pleasure.
Yeah.
Why would you want to shame people for that?
Yeah, and I guess, you know, it's great that we have a national team because we've got offices around the community centres around the country. So we've got one Christchurch, which covers the whole South Island. Wellington is our head office, which covers, you know, the Gisborne area and Palmerston North and Tauranga, and then Auckland we cover from Bombay right to the far north. But we're not funded for some parts, so, you know, we do it for Aroha.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, so we need more funding.
Yeah,
For
that'd be
this.
nice. Some philanthropic funding.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. To wrap up, what do you think we need to do better when it comes to space? Obviously, more money, but like, what could we as a country, as a people, do more when we're talking about sex work?
Well, what I can say is that what I've noticed in 20 years is that you know, sex workers have been approached to share their stories, and that, you know, you can, like, one spin-off. RNZ, or, you know, just other little, you know, media stories and stuff like that, where they've been brave enough to come out. It takes a lot of courage to come out, but, you know, the more positive stories that are out there about our people, our community, the less shame there is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess for us would be, you know, changing Section 9 of the Prostitution Reform Act and the Immigration Act so that migrant sex workers are able to work in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Some people are like, oh, no, you know, they can be quite racist towards migrants.
Of course.
And, but, you know, I've dealt with many migrant workers who are on student visas, you know, other temporary visas who, yeah, you know, had to, you know, be deported or had horrible things happen to them that we haven't been able to report because their fear of their visa being revoked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just ongoing.
Wow. Yeah.
But I mean, during the 25th, anyway, it's our 20 years, and we are planning to have a event up here in Tamaki Makaurau and an exhibition. We're just doing some collaboration stuff with Auckland Council. And yeah, just watch that space, because we'll probably put it up on our website and our socials.
Beautiful.
And just raising the awareness around decriminalisation.
Beautiful.
You know, 20 years and beyond.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what's your social media handle for? Is it just New Zealand sexual sex work?
Aotearoa New Zealand Sex Workers Collective.
Cool.
We're on Instagram, Twitter,
Mean.
Facebook. What else is there I'm trying to think of?
The website.
The website, which
So
is
cool.
www.nzpc.org.nz.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. I've got brain fog.
No, you're good.
And yeah, no, we have, yeah, just come and give us a call, or we're happy to even come and talk to your community groups.
Mean.
And yeah, and that sort of stuff. So we're very approachable.
Yeah.
Lovely.
No. This is amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's been really beautiful to speak with you and to learn about this space that we don't know much about.
We
And
don't
I
know
think
anything.
you know, I think it's really important that we have spaces to talk about things that we don't often talk about. So
Yeah. Be kind,
Yeah.
be open,
Yeah.
get informed.
and don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Nice. No.
You know?
You would make money on OnlyFans, I'm just saying.
I know. I know. I
I've
feel like
already
I
got
have
a
a real
photo
niche
shoot ready
market.
for you.
No.
Yeah.
His ego now. Anna's
I
ego.
honestly know that. Like, I would have a real niche market. I'm fully tatted.
Yeah.
Like this. Yeah. People would be like,
Or you take your
what
hair
a
down,
buzzy.
Maui.
Maui.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We
we'll
could
put oil on your body.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oil it. Fuck. I should do it.
Che would love
Yeah.
It'd
this.
be so,
She just oil your body for you.
yeah. Then I wouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah, just lie there.
Yeah, just
You just do these poses, yeah. Next to Tangaro.
yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anna.
You're welcome.
But that's us. Go find Anna and the mahi she does at Sex Workers Collective, Aotearoa Sex Workers Collective, and We'll see you next
Next time.
episode. Ka
Bye,
kite anō.